Welcome to Value VestDaily. All right, today we're diving deep into a story that isn't just shaking up the semiconductor industry, it's fundamentally reshaping the whole thing. What if I told you that a 35-year-old company, famous for being the quiet, reliable architect behind the curtain, suddenly decided to step right into the spotlight and compete with the biggest names in the business? A single announcement sent this $140+ billion chip giant soaring over 20% in a single day. We're talking about ARM Holdings, and believe me, they aren't just riding the AI wave anymore. They're building the next tsunami. This is a story about a massive strategic gamble, the future of artificial intelligence, and what could be one of the biggest investment opportunities of the decade. But before we jump in, just a quick reminder, this content is for educational and informational purposes only. It should not be considered financial or tax advice. Please always do your own research and consult with a professional.
Okay, let's really unpack this. Because this wasn't just some minor product launch. This was a tectonic shift in corporate strategy. The question on everyone's mind is simple, but it's also profound. Why now? Why would a company with a proven, wildly successful, and frankly, safe business model that has worked for over 3 decades suddenly pivot and change its entire identity? I mean, this is a company that built an empire on being neutral. They were the ultimate arms dealer in the mobile revolution, supplying the blueprints to everyone without ever picking a side. To just throw that away, that's a monumental decision. And the answer, as we're about to find out, has everything to do with a new, insatiable demand created by the explosive future of artificial intelligence.
So let's kick things off with Section 1, a chip giant's gamble. To really get the scale of this shift, we first have to understand the old ARM. We need to look at the kingdom they built. You see, the company that existed before this bombshell announcement was a titan, but a very specific, very clever kind of titan. And to appreciate the sheer audacity of this gamble, we have to first appreciate the stable, incredibly lucrative, and seemingly unshakable empire they've just decided to put on the line.
And this really captures their role perfectly. For over 35 years, ARM has been the neutral power, the Switzerland of semiconductors. They didn't actually make or sell their own physical chips. No. Instead, they designed the architecture, the fundamental blueprints for power-efficient processors. A good way to think about them is like a star architect who sells the plans for an incredible skyscraper but never, ever lays a single brick. They would then license those designs out to everyone. Apple for the iPhone, Qualcomm for their Snapdragon chips, NVIDIA, Samsung, you name it. Your phone, your tablet, your smart TV, your car's infotainment system, odds are it is running on ARM architecture. This business model was pure genius. It was high margin, low overhead, and you could scale it infinitely. They just collected royalties on billions and billions of devices, which made them the ultimate picks and shovels provider for the entire mobile revolution.
But that entire stable world just got turned upside down. On March 24, 2026, at a huge industry event in San Francisco, CEO Rene Haas got up on stage and announced that for the first time in the company's long and storied history, they would be manufacturing and selling their own silicon. Just let that sink in for a second. They're no longer just the IP guy, the architect selling blueprints. They are now competing in the arena, shipping the final product. This single move signals a radical new strategy. It means they're not just enabling their partners anymore. In many ways, they are now going to be competing with them. And this is exactly why it sent immediate shockwaves through the market and across the entire tech landscape.
Which brings us to Section 2, the agentic AI problem. So that begs the question, right? What on earth could be powerful enough to force such a historic pivot? What trend is so massive that it justifies risking a 35-year-old multi-billion-dollar business model? Well, the answer is a new evolution of AI that's creating an entirely new set of problems, and for ARM, a monumental opportunity. And this isn't just about making chatbots a little faster or generating prettier images. This is about a fundamental bottleneck in how we power the next generation of intelligence itself.
The crucial concept to wrap your head around here is agentic AI. This is the next frontier. It's the leap from passive to active intelligence. We're moving beyond AI that just responds to a prompt, like a search engine or a chatbot. Agentic AI is designed to take a complex, multi-step goal, break it down, reason, plan, and then execute those steps all on its own in the digital world, or maybe even the physical one. Imagine an AI you could tell to say, research the top 3 competitors in the e-commerce space, analyze their Q3 earnings reports, summarize the key threats, and then draft an email to the executive team, and it just does it, making thousands of little decisions along the way. Well, that level of autonomous action requires a fundamentally different kind of computation. It's this constant loop of processing, reasoning, acting, and it creates a staggering, relentless demand for processing power, and it is putting an immense new strain on our data centers all over the world.
And this slide just lays out the core problem perfectly. The data centers of today, the engines that run the cloud, they're largely built on what's known as x86 architecture from companies like Intel and AMD. And these chips, they're powerful, but they are incredibly power hungry. For a single server, okay, that's manageable. But when you need to run millions of these new agent AI tasks at the same time across a facility the size of a dozen football fields, well, the cost of power and the cost of cooling those servers becomes your #1 bottleneck. We are talking about electricity bills in the tens of millions of dollars per month for a single data center. ARM's architecture, on the other hand, was born in the world of battery-powered mobile devices, where every single milliwatt counts. Power efficiency is literally in its DNA. It's inherently 2 to 3 times more power efficient than x86. And that's not just a small improvement, that is a complete game changer at the data center scale, potentially saving billions in operational costs and enabling a density of computation that was pretty much impossible before.
And that brings us to Section 3, ARM's answer to this whole problem, their very first in-house chip, the AGI CPU. This is where ARM steps out from behind the curtain. And look, this isn't just another processor. This is a piece of silicon engineered from the ground up to solve this specific power dilemma and unlock the future of agentic AI. This is not a general-purpose chip trying to be a jack-of-all-trades. It is a purpose-built weapon for the AI revolution.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty because the engineering here is just remarkable. This chip is an absolute beast. It features up to 136 of ARM's latest Neoverse V3 cores. That's a massive number of parallel processors just designed for handling tons of AI tasks at once. It's built on TSMC's cutting-edge 3nm process. Now for context, that means the transistors are incredibly small and packed together, which directly translates to higher speed and lower power consumption. So what's the result? Well, ARM claims it delivers more than double the performance per rack compared to the old x86 CPUs. That's a critical metric for data centers, where physical space is money. And it does all this while operating at a super power-efficient 300-watt thermal design power. So, in simple terms, it delivers more than twice the punch while using significantly less electricity. That is the kind of efficiency that can crush the old guard and totally redefine the economics of running an AI data center.
And this slide right here, this is why Wall Street just went nuts. This isn't some speculative product launch into an empty market. The AGI CPU was co-developed with Meta, who's going to be the anchor customer. That means one of the world's largest AI developers has had its hands on this chip from day one, making sure it meets their massive needs. That alone is a huge vote of confidence. And they aren't alone. You've got OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, Cloudflare, a giant in web infrastructure, SAP, a leader in enterprise software, and SK Telecom, all already committed. You know, when the biggest and most demanding players in AI and cloud computing are lining up on day one, it massively de-risks the entire project for investors. This isn't a shot in the dark, it's a targeted strike with the full backing and validation of the entire industry.
So we've got the tech, we've got the industry buy-in. Now for Section 4. Let's talk about the money. Let's look at how this monumental announcement was received by the market, because the financial implications are absolutely staggering. This isn't just a new product, it's the creation of an entirely new, multi-billion-dollar business line from what was previously just thin air. The market's reaction? It was instant. It was decisive, and man was it loud. RM shares just exploded, surging up to 21% in a single trading day. That added over $20 billion to the company's valuation, pushing it past $143 billion total. This was the biggest single-day move for the stock in almost a year, and it happened on massive trading volume. This is what we as investors call a story change. Both retail and institutional funds started chasing this breakout, seeing it not as a minor product update or a good earnings report, but as a fundamental, permanent change to the company's future growth and its total addressable market.
But the stock surge was just the effect. This is the cause. During the announcement, CEO Rene Haas dropped an absolute bombshell of a financial projection. He said that this single product line, the AGI CPU, is projected to generate roughly $15 billion in annual revenue by the year 2031. Let's really put that number into perspective. This is not total company revenue. This is the revenue from one product, a product that didn't even exist a day before. This single product is expected to make more money than the entire company, with all of its global licensing deals, makes today. That's not just guidance. That's the blueprint for a completely new, high-growth business model bolted right onto their existing one.
And this chart, wow, this really puts it all into a stunning visual perspective. On the left, you see ARM's total revenue in 2025, a respectable figure right around $4 billion.
built on decades of licensing. On the right, you see the projection for 2031, with the new AGI CPU driving that growth. They're projecting total company revenue to hit $25 billion. That is a potential 6x increase in total company revenue in just 6 years. This growth is driven entirely by this strategic pivot, from the high-margin but smaller-scale business of licensing IP to the massive, high-volume, high-value business of selling physical silicon products directly to the biggest and richest companies in the world.
You know, social media and the finance forums just absolutely blew up in the hours and days after the news. And this one post from some anonymous trader, it just nailed the sentiment perfectly. ARM just mutated its DNA. And you know what? That's exactly the right word. This isn't an evolution, it's a mutation, a fundamental, spontaneous change to the very core of what the company is and how it operates. They've gone from being the quiet architect behind the scenes, a trusted neutral party, to being the star player on the field, building and selling the most critical hardware for the AI era. It's a move from enabler to competitor.
But, and this is probably the most important part for any of us as investors, a gamble this huge is never, ever a sure thing. So, Section 5, Risks versus Rewards. As with any massive bet, it's not without significant risks. Nothing is guaranteed. A $15 billion revenue projection comes with $15 billion worth of challenges, and it's absolutely crucial that we strip away the hype and really understand both the bull and the bear case, both sides of this very expensive coin.
All right, this slide lays out the battlefield pretty clearly. Let's start with the bull case, the reasons to be optimistic. First, there's huge, undeniable demand from hyperscalers like Meta, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft for power-efficient AI chips. This spending is basically non-discretionary. I mean, if they fall behind in the AI arms race, they risk becoming obsolete. Second, like we discussed, Meta's deep partnership massively de-risks the whole product ramp. Now for the bear case, the risks that could derail this whole thing. First, selling hardware has lower gross margins than pure IP licensing. ARM is used to these incredible 95% plus gross margins. Hardware might be closer to 50 or 60%. That changes the company's financial profile. Second, there is massive execution risk. Designing a chip is one thing. Manufacturing, delivering, and supporting millions of them at scale without problems is a completely different beast. Any hiccup in that supply chain could be disastrous. And finally, fierce competition. Let's be very clear. They are walking into a war zone. NVIDIA isn't just standing still. They have their own ARM-based Grace CPU, and companies like Google and Amazon are increasingly designing their own custom chips. ARM needs to prove their product isn't just good, but significantly better than a whole host of powerful alternatives.
So the crucial takeaway here is that ARM has fundamentally transformed itself. For decades, they were the ultimate picks and shovels stock for every new technology wave. And with the AI gold rush, they were perfectly positioned to do it all over again. But they've made a bolder choice. They've decided to stop just selling the tools and to start building the entire factory themselves. It's a move with incredible potential upside, but also company-altering risk. And this leaves us with one final provocative question that the market is going to be answering over the next few years. Has ARM just made the move that crowns them the new king of the AI data center? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this a brilliant pivot or a foolish gamble? Are you buying this breakout? Please subscribe, like, and share Value VestDaily for daily learning opportunities before you put your money to work. And one more thing, please put in a comment if you want us to deep dive into any specific high-risk/reward opportunities. We'll see you in the next one.